You're tuned into Jerod Said It.
Don't you forget it!
Bring it laughs, real talk, a little bit of chaos.
Here's your host,
Jerod!
Hey guys, welcome to Jerod Said It. Don't you forget it. I'm your host, Jerod. So let me tell you a little bit about Season 1. Season 1 is going to be a learning curve, obviously. I'm new to the podcast industry, so I hope you all stick along for the journey. We are going to dive in with some of TikTok's upcoming creators and learn about their brands, how they navigate their stress, their lives, the drama behind being a content creator on the apps. We're going to take a first-hand look. We're going to open up the curtains, and we're going to get to know these people and what they are about. Most importantly, we're going to keep it real. We're going to keep it honest. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry, all with a little bit of Jerod Said It spin. We'll do a little bit of pop culture, some inbox confessionals with another little dramatic Jerod spin on it. But yeah, we're keeping it real. We're keeping it honest, and this season is going to be fun. So welcome along for the ride. This is the first episode, so obviously I thought it would be super important for you guys to get to know me before we dive into all the other creators that I'm going to have throughout the season on here. I want you guys to know me, to trust me. Yeah, so let's just dive into it. I had a list of questions prepared for me that I'm going to answer on the podcast, so I will be looking down at the paper from time to time just to look at the questions. Just because I wanted to be able to open up to you guys, and you guys be able to know who I am off of the screen. I'm not just a bio. I'm not just a funny person on TikTok. I'm still human. So here's the real and the raw about me. Question number 1 is, who is Jerod really beyond the bios and social media? And how would the people closest to you describe you when the cameras are off? So I actually did a little exercise over this when I was trying to piece together my podcast with some of the people that have been behind the scenes this whole time. And they asked me to draw a circle, ask my closest my closest companions, my best friends, my husband, ask all these people words to describe me. And I was actually kind of amazed by some of the words that I got back. I would say I'm funny, I'm charismatic, I'm caring, compassionate, dramatic, a little feminine, and emotional. I'm an emotional person. Those were just some of the words of affirmation that my closest people gave me. And some of those really resonated. And then some of them I was like, wow, you think I'm caring? Or wow, you think I'm compassionate? So some of those words were really eye-opening to hear. I was really surprised, actually, by a lot of those words. People said I was very business-minded. People said I really am goal-oriented. And, those are all things that were true, but people have never really told me. Question number 2, where did you grow up, and what parts of your upbringing shaped the man you are today, for better and worse? So I grew up in a really small town called Truman, Arkansas. Redneck capital of the world, not really, but it was a little bitty podunk town. In the time that I grew up, it was not really appropriate to be of the gay community, which I am. I am gay. I have a blended family with my husband. When I was growing up, it wasn't really okay there in that town. So I think, and I had a real rocky childhood. My parents were involved in drugs when I got about 9 years old. Before that, I remember my life, and it was just cookie cutter. And we were like Leave It to Beaver. my parents had built a big house on 8 acres of land, and we had everything that you could want. If we wanted it, we got it. I mean, it was just wild. And after they built this house, on the hills is what I called it, their life changed. They started turning to drugs. My sister graduated graduated high school and went on to college. And so at about 9 years old, from 9 to really like 16, I wasn't really involved a whole lot with my parents. My grandparents raised me, and they did a good job. They did the best that they could, being grandparents that raise grandkids. But I think that has helped me be more successful. I put my heart and soul into everything that I do because I want to be successful, and I want to be successful for my children. I want them to see me as successful. I want to. I want them to look at me and know, wow, my dad works hard for what we have. But at the end of the day, after the podcast or after the TikTok live or after a meeting at work, I still show up for my children. Their track meets, their band concerts, their cheerleading, their pageants. And so I think that all the misfortunes that I have had in my life growing up have shaped me into a better adult and a better father. My dad was great. He did the best that he knew how. He died early in life, about 50. But, so I don't mean I'm a better father. I mean, it has made me a better father, the upbringing that I had. Question number 3. When did you first realize you were gay, and what was that journey like for you navigating identity, confidence, and self-acceptance? So, I honestly probably realized that I was gay very early on in life. Probably as early as like 3 or 4. I liked playing with Barbie dolls. I could recite every word to The Little Mermaid. I still can recite every word to The Little Mermaid. My sister did some modeling. She did pageants. And I would walk around in her heels and I would balance books on my head because I wanted to walk like that. So I knew very, very early on. However, it was not appropriate then. That stuff was not appropriate. I actually did not come out until later in life. In my late 20s is when I became my true self. So my children came from, an actual marriage that I was in previous to this life. I had full custody. My husband and I had full custody of my children. They live a very good life. They have adjusted very well to this life. But it took me a long time to accept it, and actually break the chains and break free to be authentically who I was. And I'm still trying to be authentically who I am. I'm still finding out things about me every day. So my confidence isn't 100, but I'm much better now than I was 10 years ago. You wear many hats. You're a husband, a dad, a full-time professional, a content creator, a live host. How do you balance all of that? And where do you feel stretched thin? I do work a full-time job, so the balance for me is I do my content creation really early in the morning. Sometimes I start at like 5 in the morning and work up until it's time to take the kids to school, and then I work into the evening. Sometimes well into the time when my family goes to bed, because sometimes I'm having to juggle, getting to cheer practice or making dinner and all of those things. So I guess where I'm stretched the thinnest is I feel like there are some days where I'm not able to give, like my husband and children all of my attention, because I did throw a lot of hats on all at once. But they are very supportive, and so I'm giving it my all, and we're gonna see where it goes. What role has laughter played in your life, and why is humor such a big part of how you cope, connect, and show up online? So I've always told people I'm a Robin Williams of the world. You know, I love to make people laugh, feel valued, seen, heard. Um, but at the end of the day, sometimes I'm sad inside. And obviously, I have people for that, but I'm just saying, in general, that's why, to me, it makes me feel so good to see people laugh, to see people be valued. And I think that's why I carry such, I like to be so humorous with the things that I do and I say, is because if someone makes me laugh or feel heard, it really resonates. And I'm like, oh, wow. So I think giving that to someone in return, even if I just make one person make a better decision because they laughed or they felt appreciated or whatever, you know, then I've done something good for the day. So my goal is to reach people like that. And I think it's important to our mental health to laugh, to love. TikTok didn't just happen. How did you get into live posting and content creation? And what surprised you the most once people started watching? So TikTok didn't just happen for me. I have been completely off of social media for 6 or 7 years, maybe longer than that now. I honestly can't remember for sure. I honestly got back onto TikTok as a joke. A couple of girlfriends of mine were like, "Oh my gosh, Jerod, you've got to make a TikTok. You've got to make a TikTok. You are so funny. People are really gonna, um, they're really gonna flock to you and that kind of thing." And so through that, I made a TikTok, thinking, okay, I'll make a couple videos. It'll flop. It'll be fun. After I had posted maybe 3 videos, the friend requests started coming in, and then I started going into these live rooms and watching these hosts, and got connected with a couple of different live hosts, and they're like, "You need to be doing this." And so I started that journey, and here we are. I'm about 150 days into live hosting. I'm monetizing from the app, but it's opened other doors to me. It's really connected me with a lot of people that I would have never known, and people that I I feel like were sent to me for a purpose, for a reason, and people that have molded me and pushing me to do this. Even the podcast, there's several people behind me that are like, "You've got to do a podcast. You've got to do a podcast. You're so good in front of the camera. You're so good on the mic. Like you've got to do these things." So here I am, and I'm going to give it 100%. At least I can say I tried it. Once people started watching, I think for me, it was just like, how did this happen? And then I was like, if I had started this 6 years ago, I would be a millionaire. My job is in long-term care, so I'm not going anywhere. That's my passion. So I'm super grateful. I'm grateful for all the opportunities it's given me. Um, I've had a couple of different brands that have reached out and worked with me. Um, and it's been good. There is negativity on the app, but I disassociate from that and I keep my circle small. And I keep my circle with people that have the same goals as I do, or that are going to support my goals. Because not always someone can say they support you, but at the end of the day, they're waiting for you to fail. And so I think it's important that you weed people out like that and you keep your circle tight, and keep people around you that truly want the best for you. What parts of yourself have you had to unlearn or heal as you've gotten older, especially as a man, a parent, and a public personality? I had to heal a lot from um, hiding who I really was for a long time. You know, not being authentically who you are puts a lot of stress on your body. It took me a long time to just realize, like, once I was being who I was supposed to be, there were things about me that have stopped happening, and I know that it was because I was holding all of this stress inside. Debilitating migraines, I would have them before, and I would have to lay down in my closet in the dark. I would take Excedrin migraine medicine, and I would lay in the dark, and I would put a fan under the door, and I would lay there for hours. And I've not had a single one of those since I came out of the closet. Literally came out of the closet. Pun intended. I wasn't always bullied per se, but there were times where I was bullied, and I'm very metrosexual or feminine. I have a very feminine walk. I have, I like Botox, I like filler, I like Louis Vuitton, I like all these things, and so I think identifying myself with that and actually getting the Botox and getting the filler and all of those things gave me confidence that I did not have when I was hiding who I truly was. Someone asked me one time, when do you feel, when you were closeted, what made you feel the most alive? And the only thing I could think of is we would have parties and get-togethers with my friends. My friend Kelly and I, we used to always share a birthday party together, and I would just be wild, and people would all just be like, "Oh, it's because he's partying or whatever." But no, really, I was being this flamboyant person that I really am. So that's how I had just a little bit of who I was, but I was still very much hidden. So let's talk about Jerod Said It, Don't You Forget It. Where did the idea come from, and what do you want this podcast to be different from everything else out there? So obviously season 1 is going to be a learning curve for me, for my listeners and viewers. What I want people to take most away from this podcast is that behind the screen, off of the phone, we are still actual people that have feelings that need to be validated. We are still humans. We have to make dinner for our family. We have things that we have to do outside of content create. And so season 1, I've gotten close with several much larger than I am content creators on the app. And I want to dive into their lives head first. I want you to hear about their messy drama. I want you to hear about their success, their brands, and how they mitigate it and manage it all. Because the people that we're going to interview on season 1, they all are involved in different things on the app. And I think it's going to be very important that we learn from one another and that we listen to each other's stories. I think it's going to be fun. We've got a good set of questions that I'm going to ask each individual, tailored to what they do and what they're involved in. I'm going to have funny inbox confessionals, and I have some that I'll share shortly. People have been DMing me or emailing me to jaredsaidit@gmail.com because I want to keep it funny. Of course, I'm going to throw in some pop culture and different things like that along the way. But I think it's going to be a fun ride, and I think it's going to be great for you all to get to listen and learn about who these people actually are. Some of them you may know, some of them you may not know, and you can get to know. That I think it's going to be a wild ride. I will say that. I think it's going to be wild once you start hearing everything that goes on behind the scenes, behind the curtains. It's going to be eye-opening. What are some misconceptions people have about you from social media, and what's the truth you wish they understood? So a lot of times people think that, oh my God, you have this perfect life. You have this perfect life. You look perfect. But no, that's all put on. It's for a show. My life is far from perfect. To know that I'm still just as real as you are. I had someone that actually recognized me recently in Walmart, of all places, and they were like, kept staring at me. I'm like, oh gosh, where's this going? And the young man said, I watch you on TikTok. You're Jerod from TikTok. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And they were like, oh my gosh, and so I think that people sometimes forget, like, I have to go to Walmart and get my groceries just like everybody else. I'm not like an A-list celebrity or anything like that. Like, I'm still very much real. So that young man got to see me in Walmart. I was in shorts and an oversized sweater. Probably my hair was 2-day washed hair with dry shampoo. So I think that I want people to understand that I'm still just as real as you are. My life is not perfect. It's as perfect as I want it. It's as perfect as I let you see it, if that makes sense. At this stage of your life, what matters most to you? And what do you hope listeners feel when they leave the podcast? Obviously, what matters most to me is family, health. Those are the things that are most important to me. Continue to grow on social media. I want my podcast to be successful. This is season 1. It's going to be rocky. I'm still finding myself. So I can't tell you that season 2 is going to be about content creators. It may be totally different. It may be off the wall. Who knows? Because season 1, I'm still finding myself. The thing that I hope listeners take away most when they leave this podcast is we're peeling back the curtains on these content creators this season. And I want people to know at the end of the day, they are still human. They still have feelings that have to be validated. Words hurt. We're all of the people that are content creators are truly trying to be successful. You can't discredit someone that has 10,000 followers versus someone that has 100,000 followers out there grinding every day. But at the end of the day, they're still people. So I want people to see that side of them. I want people to know that kindness goes a long way. I want people to laugh, which I think from some of these inbox confessionals I have, it's going to be a funny season. I think it's going to be a wild ride, and I think it's going to be funny. I think you're going to get to see some drama that comes from the apps, and I just look forward to sharing it and sharing the screen with some of these big creators or upcoming big creators on the app. I'm going to kind of dive into a few of the inbox confessionals that I have received. These have all been received probably in the last couple of weeks, and they're quite funny. This first one says, I flirt with my partner in public like we're about to do something illegal, then go home and fall asleep by 9:30. Okay, well, sweetie, that wasn't foreplay. All you did was let yourself down and you pleased the couch. The second one says, I pretend I don't like attention, but if someone doesn't notice my outfit, I spiral internally for the rest of the day. Baby, you dress for validation, and the audience was silent. This one says, I pretend I don't like attention, but if someone doesn't notice my outfit, I spiral internally for the rest of the day. Well, sweetie, you didn't dress yourself. You dressed for validation, and the audience was silent. That is what we call an unpaid performance. Jerod said it. Don't you forget it. I've read old spicy messages just to remind myself I was once desired. That's not embarrassing. That's historical documentation, and everybody has a secret album, sweetie. I say I'm tired, but what I really mean is I don't want to be touched unless it's emotionally or financially. Let's see, what could I say to that? Touch me with reassurance, grab me with stability, and hug me with a savings account. Jerod said it. Don't you forget it. Last one from another listener on my podcast or on my TikTok says, sometimes I dress extra hot just to go nowhere important and humble strangers I'll never see again. Baby, that's what we call good community service. Jerod said it. Don't you forget it. I appreciate all of you guys for listening. I think you all will enjoy season 1, and we're going to drop these episodes every Thursday. So yeah, tune in, and I'll see you all back soon. Bye.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Jerod Said It. Like, share, follow the show. You already know it. Stream the pod everywhere. Apple, Spotify, TikTok, YouTube, at Jerod Said It. Come on, stop by. Got a question, a confession? Send that email in. JerodSaidIt@email.com. Let the tea begin. Until next time, lean in, don't you miss it. Jerod said it. Jerod said it. Don't you forget it.